So I was totally watching a movie yesterday, and this girl was talking about the word hate, how she hated this and hated this. But as she kept saying the word hate, she started crying. So it made me realize, hey, maybe hate didn't really mean to hate. Whoa.
Power standard number 4. What's the word really mean? Now, in this lecture, we're going to be talking about a very important power standard. Now, at this point, you should have already been towards mastery or getting better at utilizing context clues to figure out words you don't know. So we're going to take that to the next level. Power standard 4 is dealing with that next level, where we literally determine the meaning, literal or underlining, of words and phrases that we don't know or we don't recognize in the text. The second part of standard 10.4 that you typically see in informational text is you're going to determine the impact, tone, and mood of words and phrases. VIP number 1, how do we do this? What we want to do is we want to stutter and master these devices so that we can decipher what's around the blank. Once we decipher what's around the blank, it'll make us easier to figure out the blank. Now, how do we do that?
Step number 1 in figuring out a word's meaning. What's your function? Is it a noun, verb, or an adjective? Why is knowing the function important? 1, it helps you to understand how a word functions in a sentence, because if you understand how the word functions, you'll know the meaning of the word or the context of how the word is used in the sentence. Let's take oil for an example. Pretty common word. Everybody knows what oil means. It's a noun. It's a liquid created for fuel use or as a lubricant. But did you know the word oil, when it's used as a verb, means to bribe or to make smooth? So let's look at this sentence. Jim, the auto mechanic, oils his words to overcharge his customers. So we're literally not saying he adds lubricant. What we're saying is he makes his words smooth, or he bribes individuals or persuades or cons individuals into paying more for their automobile purchases. Step 1, what's your function? Now, let's take a little bit of a quiz because I want to make sure you know the difference between a noun, a verb, and an adjective. Are you ready for a pop quiz? Great job on the pop quiz. Now, let's look at some more examples.
So let's look at oil as it's used as a noun. The car needs a few quarts of oil. In this sentence, oil is a noun. It's a thing. Other nouns in the sentence include car and quarts. A thing, and a thing. Now, let's look at an adjective. Remember, an adjective describes or modifies a noun. This is an oil painting. In this sentence, painting is my noun. I'm using the word oil to describe what type of painting that it is. And then lastly, we have the verb. A verb expresses action or state of being. For example, expresses action. She jumped into the pool. He ran into the end zone. State of being. You are somebody. So let's look at this sentence. He wanted to oil the floors. He is my subject. He wanted to do something. What did he want to do? He wanted to oil the floors. Let's talk about the connotative meaning of a word. When I'm talking about connotative, connotative, what I mean is that it's connected with a feeling, typically suggestive or implied. VIP number 2, it's used the most. When you look at words that authors use, they're always trying to connect a feeling with you, be it good or bad, positive or negative. And VIP number 3, all words give off some type of feeling.
Ah, yes, feelings. That's what it's all about. It's about the emotional connection or the emotional chord that strikes in us when we hear a word. That's connotation. That's the word's connotative meaning. It helps us to understand how a word makes us feel or the associations that come to mind when you hear a word or you read a word, and that allows you to better comprehend that word's use in a passage. Once you can pinpoint this exact association, it allows you to better determine what that word's meaning is in the context of the entire sentence or the passage. So let's reflect. Remember, connotative is an idea or a feeling that a word evokes. VIP number 4, that's usually going to be good or bad, positive or negative, happy or sad, or sometimes neutral, meaning no feeling at all. Denotative is the word's literal meaning, meaning the dictionary meaning. Meaning if I said, what is the denotative meaning of kick the bucket? I'm literally saying physically kick a bucket. But if I ask you what's the connotative meaning or the association of the phrase kick the bucket, that means to pass or be deceased. So let's check it out. House. The denotative meaning of house is a place of residence. That's where someone lives. However, which sounds more positive in connotation, home or shack? When you think of the word home, it should strike a positive connotation, as opposed to the word shack, which has a negative connotation. So if a writer is describing it as a shack, it should immediately striking you a not so good, aka negative or bad or sad feeling, versus using home, which would strike a positive, good or happy feeling. If a person just says, I live in a house, it's neither or. That's why neutral meanings usually are the word's denotative meaning. Now, let's look at a movie example. In the movie 10 Things I Hate About You, a drama teen film from 1999, Kat Stratford, played by Julia Stiles, is a beautiful, smart, but quite abrasive young woman to most of her fellow teens, especially boys. However, for her younger sister Bianca, who is the smart, beautiful, and sweet sister, she's unable to date until Kat does. So Bianca and her beau devise a plan to have Kat fall in love with Patrick Verona, a recently new student. And their plan works. However, Kat has her heart broken. In this clip, you're going to see a poem that Kat writes. You're going to hear a common repetitive phrase. However, what is the actual connotative meaning of the word that Kat repeats in her poem?
Lord, here we go.
I hate the way you talk to me and the way you cut your hair. I hate the way you drive my car. I hate it when you stare. I hate your big dumb combat boots and the way you read my mind. I hate you so much it makes me sick. It even makes me rhyme. I hate it. I hate the way you're always right. I hate it when you lie. I hate it when you make me laugh. Even worse when you make me cry. I hate it when you're not around and the fact that you didn't call. But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Not even at all.
Ah, yes, feelings. And look at her face. She's clearly not a person that hates, right? But that's the title of her poem. And the most repeated word in the poem is hate. And I know what you're thinking. I know what hate means. Hate means to loathe, to dislike, to abhor something or someone terribly. But clearly in the context of this poem, hate means actually she's loving this individual. Probably the young man that the clip pans to at the end. She hates all these things, but actually what she's saying is, I love these things. And look at the last line of the poem. I hate the fact that I don't even hate you, not even close, not even a little bit, not even at all. So clearly hate in the context of the poem is actually representative of love. And that's one thing we have to remember. We may know what a word's denotative meaning is going into it, but we always want to check the feelings that are associated with it, because a connotative meaning, or how it's used in the context of the sentence, could have a completely different meaning. We want to match each sentence with its correct connotation. So remember, as soon as we see a word and we don't know the word, or we have a question that's asking us about the word, the first thing we always want to do is, after we ID the function, we want to check the word's feeling. In this case, the word is scalding. Is it positive or negative, good or bad, happy or sad? Clearly, in this instance, scalding doesn't sound good to me. So I automatically know that it is negative in connotation. Umbaku is such a horrible snake. Check the function. What's your feeling? Not a good feeling when I hear somebody is a snake and I'm associating with the actual animal. Snake also has a negative, this sentence has a negative connotation. After I walk in the mud, Oscar was extremely dirty. Okay, dirty. Not the best thing in the world to be, but dirty has more of a positive connotation. I can think of many more negative words that still mean dirty, but are negative in nature. Kevin's interest in model cars has turned into a hobby. That's positive in nature. I'm literally saying it's something that is a good thing. So after I identified the function, this is a noun, I then check the feeling of the word to be positive. Jason appears to be scrawny. Scrawny. Scrawny means small. When I hear the word scrawny, do I think good things or bad things? Do I feel happy or sad, positive or negative? In this instance, scrawny has a negative connotation. And then lastly, McDonald's is an inexpensive meal. Inexpensive. Okay, I check my function. It clearly is an adjective. I then check my feeling, positive or negative. I'm going to put inexpensive. Even though inexpensive, I want to have an expensive meal, I know that the word inexpensive and the sentence as a whole reflects a positive connotation. Step number 3. What's your meaning? In long story short, if the author said it, it means something. If the author used a word, it's going to mean something. We just have to figure out which something it is. It's going to be one of two avenues. It's either going to be literal, meaning the author meant exactly what the word said, exactly what the text said. When you want to add more flair, most authors and writers, especially poets, are going to use figurative language to tell you what they're truly trying to mean, to help you understand the context of what they're saying. And figurative are just words and phrases that an author uses to describe something or someone, typically through comparison. Why is step 3 so important? Because when you understand if the author is being literal or is speaking figuratively, it's an important step in understanding a word's meaning. Because once you can pinpoint the literal figurative meaning, it allows you to, once again, better determine the author's meaning in the context of the sentence, the paragraph, the passage, the poem, or the article. Now, let's look at some examples between literal and figurative language. We already discussed the literal. Sand is rough. But maybe the author could say figuratively, sand is solid water. If you think about it, water is kind of rough in texture. Not really smooth all the time, especially choppy water. So now, not only now you understand more about sand, and you kind of have an image in your mind. Or grasshoppers, fiddlers who play their legs with alacrity. The author's still saying grasshoppers make noise, but now they're using personification by saying grasshoppers are violin players who use their legs with such alacrity that it makes this high-pitched noise. Now we know some good figurative language. We've already discussed some thus far in the semester. Things like similes, metaphors, hyperboles, personification, onomatopoeia, and imagery. But VIP number 5, whenever you come across a poem, you always want to never skip step 3. In poems, the author typically is always going to have not a literal meaning for something, but more of a figurative meaning. Let's look at an example. William Shakespeare, probably the greatest poet alive and an all-time player back in the day, wrote Sonnet 18, one of the most beautiful sonnets and love poems that have been recited and repeated throughout history. It's called Sonnet 18. Take a look. So we're going to discuss the literal as well as the figurative meaning of some of the poem's most famous phrases. Let's go.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely.
Here the author is using personification to talk about how the winds are rough in the month of May and summer's lease, or the time summer is around, is too short.
Hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometimes declines by chance, or nature's changing course.
So William Shakespeare has spent all this time talking about the things that make summer not so great. Sometimes it's cloudy when it's too hot. But now he shifts gears and talks about the eternal summer of the woman that he loves, the listener of this
So long
poem.
as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
Hey, did you like this lecture video? Then be sure to comment, rate, and subscribe.